In the meantime, thousands of displaced Syrian refugees in Lebanon have begun their journey home. Displaced people dragging their luggage and carrying bags, crossing the Masna border, crossing with Syria, trying very much to cross that border on foot. Lebanon having said that it was closing all of its land border crossings with Syria except for the Masna crossing, which links Beirut directly with Damascus. And joining me now is France 24's Rawad Taha, who's normally our Beirut correspondent, but in fact has just arrived in the Syrian capital. Rawad, you've just made that border crossing yourself. Give us a sense of what you witnessed, but also you saw people, as many as, leaving Lebanon to head back into Syria, also others coming in the opposite direction.
Indeed, in particular, this is my first trip to Syria in a very, very long time. In particular, this is roughly around a 2-hour drive from Beirut to Damascus. In particular, at the border crossing in Lebanon, there was a lot of Syrian people who were heading back to Syria. However, surprisingly, there were more people who were fleeing Syria and heading to Beirut, some of which are still stuck at the border, as the Lebanese side has put a lot of restrictions on the entry of Syrians into Lebanon. So we've seen a lot of traffic jam from Syria towards Beirut, not a lot of traffic jam from Beirut towards Syria. In particular, what is very remarkable in that ride to Syria is the fact that there is absolutely no state once you cross the Lebanese border. So a few kilometers in, where usually the Syrian duty-free shops were located, where there's some sort of a small shopping center between the two countries, there was just hundreds of young men, gunmen with weapons, celebrating and shooting celebratory bullets into the air. Shortly afterwards, where you would usually stamp your passport on the Syrian side, there was no one there in those centers by the Syrian General Security. So we entered Syria without possibly stamping our passports. We kept moving on the road, on the highway towards Damascus. We've seen a few checkpoints by a number of different armed groups or militias, 2 to 3 people on each checkpoint. They ask very little questions, and then they just let you keep moving. Once we reached the city center of Damascus is when we started seeing some sort of more movement, a lot of cars, especially in the center of Damascus, where the celebrations were taking place. There was a lot of celebratory gunfire as well. A lot of armed men, especially young men with arms. You can't easily identify who is who, which person belongs to which group or supports which opposition group. Yet you see a huge number of young armed men, especially in that square. Once you move towards further residential neighborhoods or towns or neighborhoods located slightly away from that center of Damascus, you kind of sense some more calm and less chaos and more normalcy. Most people are staying in their homes. Most shops are closed. So a large population in Damascus, to be frank, is very happy today. We saw that in their faces, in their statements. They were very excited for what was coming next. However, also a number of other people were very worried or cautiously worried about what the next phase may bring, especially people who I talked to, in particular minorities, whether some Alawites, some Christians, some Shia. They were cautiously anxious, yet there is a lot of cautious optimism in Damascus today.
Rawad Taha, thank you so much, Rawad, having just crossed the Lebanese border and now in the Syrian capital.